everyone, I am Dao. Hello everyone, I am the Menu.
Hello everyone, I am Huo.
Right, today we continue filming our clinical medical student series. Welcome, everyone.
Hello everyone, I am Xiaoran.
Hello everyone, I am Dora.
Hello everyone, I am Amy.
They are juniors from the class of 2021.
Class of 2021.
Yes, currently in their senior year.
They first came and called me senior sister. I said, no, there's an even bigger senior here.
Let's ask, as is our custom, why did you choose to study medicine back then?
We are often asked this question, like, why study medicine? Which department do you want to choose? Where do you want to work in the future? It is still a relatively common reason. Back then, my family member, my grandmother, she had COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and then basically had to be hospitalized every autumn and winter. I often saw doctors and nurses taking care of her. And then I felt this is a very profession that can help others.
Let me tell you, every time I do the medical student series, I feel that you guys
We are different today.
full of positive energy, you know?
Every time it is Xiaoran and I should be quite different. Since I was a child, my family would tell me, doctors and teachers are both very good professions, because I didn't have a very realistic understanding of this profession. Maybe because of where my college entrance exam score was. And then there are so many majors for you to choose. But can we say it like this?
Many people are like this. They are all like this.
I was like this too.
Many people around here are like this too.
And then asking you to choose finance, computer science, or clinical medicine, or some other psychology department. You don't know either. Don't know a single one of them. Right. You don't know what they do, what you need to study, and what you can do for work in the future. Well, ruling out what I might not want to choose. And then matching my score here and there, matching it there. Definitely unwilling to settle for less. So back then I chose medicine. Maybe it has to do with personal traits. Like from the beginning, I might be a relatively idealistic person. Oh my god, like not that realistic.
Maybe so. But your score choice was quite realistic.
Yes, her score was indeed very realistic.
But for the future, maybe idealism will also support me in studying medicine.
Actually, my choice of major was almost exactly the same as Dora's. For me, my score was just there. If I were to go to Peking University, I would have been reassigned. Reassigned to weird majors. What kind of weird majors?
For example, like what weird ones?
Information management, Chinese. Hey, quick chat with information management and Chinese students.
I wouldn't dare say that. I wouldn't dare say that.
For me, actually, someone in my family studied medicine, and at first, I planned to be a bit rebellious and didn't want to study medicine. When I was a kid, I really hated it when relatives and friends saw me, and they would say, oh, your father studied medicine, and then you will also study medicine in the future. I really hated that talk back then. And I said, I will absolutely not study medicine in the future. But after growing up, I consider this matter again myself. I feel that being able to see some patients and helping them return to a normal life, I feel a sense of accomplishment. Yes, this is very meaningful. Why should I, because of some of their words, and then exclude the options that I think are better? And then I went into medicine again.
Right? I just think what he just said about going to the patients. The sense of feedback after treatment is a very important point. This is a very big source of accomplishment in work.
Have you guys not interacted with patients yet?
We have interacted with them.
We also have some context.
Hey, what he said is actually quite interesting. On the internet, we usually say every day advising people to study medicine is like being struck by lightning, right? But some netizens would say, look at these medical families and doctors. Don't the kids from those families still study medicine, right? This is also a very interesting phenomenon. If I were a parent, I might feel that I know what this path is like. I know it can be seen through to the end at a glance. Relatively speaking, it is a more stable choice. But when we usually say advising people to study medicine is like being struck by lightning, it is actually mainly because it is too hard.
10 years ago, you would feel that with the same hard work, if I switched to another major, I could make more money and a very good life. But actually, in recent years, all industries are very hard. On the contrary, medicine is a very stable and continuously improving major. So it is actually quite rare than the current environment.
Moving forward, and no need to worry about unemployment.
So going back to this junior year, for your clinical major, what are the main courses you study in the junior year?
Currently, we have undergone a curriculum reform. Its logic is that we take organs and systems as the main thread. For example, if I study the cardiovascular system, then I study the heart from anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, all the way to cardiovascular diseases, internal medicine, and surgical diseases.
Do you understand?
I understand. I get it. It went from lines to blocks.
Oh my goodness. Doesn't that mean anatomy, connected to pathology, connected to pathophysiology, are all connected to clinical practice?
It is a huge challenge for both students and teachers. Teachers didn't learn it this way, so teachers don't know how to teach it.
Then how do you take exams? You can take exams by system, right?
We do take exams by system. On a single paper, we might have anatomy questions, histology questions, and pathophysiology questions at the same time. And including clinical practice. How do you review? Look at 8 books together. It is like extracting one chapter from 8 books.
Originally, it was one book by one book. But now the chapters related to the system from every book are learned together.
Actually, that is also good. You can understand it more deeply.
But the requirements for both students and teachers will be very high. The requirements will become higher. Where are the requirements high for students?
The reformed curriculum, if it needs to compress many things at the same time, its density is very high, and the volume is also very large. If you want to feel solid, it doesn't give you that much time to do repetitive work over and over again.
Let me point out a practical thing. Well, the exams will be very hard to pass. Yes, because there are no review materials. Right, to be honest, FMU is a field grade senior to me. For example, News review materials and such, like pharmacology and stuff. Are you still using them? They don't use them now, meaning they can't use them now. It is just that when you take the exam, you don't even know what will be tested.
How many years have they kept their review materials?
I want to ask. I've been looking at it for days now.
Then they just have one person take the protein and break down the questions again. Wouldn't that solve it?
Some seniors from the class of 19 already did this in their first year.
Yeah, very interesting.
Those who follow get to enjoy the shade.
Actually, I think the harder part is, from the perspective of mechanisms, we are not familiar with it. The current teaching method is that they won't learn them horizontally together. So they need to take these similar physiological mechanisms and integrate them together by themselves. This, I think, is even harder for them. Like our previous learning method, we were finishing one subject first and then linking them together vertically. Actually, for the students themselves, vertical linking would be easier. I think the good aspect is that it actually motivates your self-directed learning more.
Yes! This is very crucial.
But I believe after a few years of learning like this, when they encounter real clinical problems in practice, their learning ability might be stronger than ours. Yes, they might transition to clinical practice more easily. Hey, I want to ask, then how is the general introduction of a certain professional course taught?
These general introductory things are merged into human morphology and function.
And that is even harder.
Exactly.
Putting the general introductions of all courses in there to teach.
Why is it hard?
Tell me, it is like you have a course learning basic math, basic physics, basic chemistry.
Right.
And there is one course just for learning this. Don't you think it is ridiculous?
It is also like you are looking at the tables of contents of all books.
Like a martial arts manual. The general introduction is the mental cultivation method. And now you have to take the mental cultivation methods of 10 martial arts manuals and learn them all together without being taught any of the moves.
And yeah, you still have to memorize them. If you can't memorize them,
You won't be able to learn any subsequent courses. And the teacher teaching this integrated cultivation method changes every class. Oh, so there are 10 teachers, not just one. And then you have to memorize all of it. It is just like Guo Jing being taught by the 7 freaks of Jiangnan. And ended up completely confused. It is so terrible. This is so terrible. When is this taught?
Right. When entering the first semester of sophomore year, not knowing any medical terms. And then this teacher says, your other teacher will teach this.
and that teacher will, it's like getting beaten with a staff right at the entrance. So miserable. This is so miserable.
Then in that case, it must be very painful at the beginning.
Yes, just toughing it out.
But later on, at a certain point, will you suddenly get it all of a sudden?
Just when you reach the very end, after you connect it with other things, you will feel as if your ran and do meridians have been cleared. And that feeling is amazing. Called.
Is this reform currently only in your school's 8-year program?
No. Many schools are promoting it. They even publish a dedicated set of textbooks, also called organ system integrated textbooks. Is it parallel to our classic blue textbooks?
Right. So what is your current course called?
It is just called organ system integrated course. And then, for example, one of our courses is called cardiovascular system.
Then we learn about cardiovascular related things. So in the junior year, you have to take courses for every system.
No, we have them split into different semesters, starting from the sophomore year.
Right. And which systems do you take in your junior year repro?
Neurology, endocrinology, psychiatry. Then what was the curriculum for the first semester of junior year?
Digestive, hematology, and respiratory. Yes, respiratory.
Then what do you study in your senior year? Because these are all right for our senior year. The 6 systems of internal medicine are already finished.
We study anesthesia in our senior year, pediatrics, ophthalmology, and otolaryngology. TCM just is for the whole senior year. And also clinical clerkship.
When do you study the nervous system? Second semester of sophomore year. Neurology is already finished.
Yes, so it is like the volume and density of what we study are both very high.
Quick! Test one. No need.
You do others. You said it is fine. Not testing others.
It is just others.
After finishing these systems in junior year, which one do you think is the hardest?
I think, let's say one.
But can this be said?
I think it is related to the teaching level. Personally, I feel that in terms of volume, the volume for reproduction is quite large, including gynecology and obstetrics, but it is not very hard to learn. Endocrinology is also quite systematic.
Maybe what the urology teacher taught. Actually, I especially agree with urology. Because urology has a characteristic, especially diseases in nephrology. It has a set of pathological classification systems, a set of clinical classification systems. And then these two are often in a one-to-many relationship. Like the same pathological change can have multiple clinical manifestations. And then the same clinical syndrome can correspond to multiple pathological types. It is just hard to connect them together by yourself when studying.
For me, I think it is respiratory because the final testing and assessment method is a bit clinical. But when they were teaching, I feel the content involving the clinical part wasn't explained very clearly.
Like, it wasn't even mentioned.
Hey, for these unexpected things, you have to study them yourself.
Yes.
Many of them have this habit. During systematic study, actually, for these things that aren't taught, it is more difficult for them to learn. It is like you use the bits and pieces, you also look for them in different books. But now your textbooks won't change with this. Change soon.
It will change, but we don't have the textbooks right now.
Actually, People's Medical Publishing House published a set of organ system integration. Right?
But it doesn't actually correspond. Like, it doesn't correspond well with the curriculum.
And every school actually integrates. The arrangement of this integrated system will also be different.
Yes, we are just sharing the situation at their school.
It might not apply to other schools.
Are there any students among you who are especially broken down?
Can I say it?
You can shake your head.
This will definitely be edited out. But it is true that everyone's mental state is still quite worrying, right?
The school doesn't just require your GPA now, right? There might also be various other projects. In terms of scientific research, if you also have some personal matters to deal with at the same time, it is very difficult for you to balance them.
Personal matters refer to,
Like,
emotionally.
Clubs also count.
What are you doing? Well, there might be.
For example, our research projects started in junior year. Or do they need to be done now? Sophomore year is different for everyone. Sophomores do research.
For our class, it started in sophomore year.
All kinds of research programs, innovative talents like National Undergraduate Training Program, like summer research, like preclinical mentors. Almost every stage will give you different research projects, different research tasks. This actually, I think it's just like what was said just now. Actually, it still brings quite a burden to everyone, especially when you don't know what use doing these things will ultimately have.
But I feel like I didn't really do much, just because I didn't know what to do. So I didn't really do much research.
Which means if I am willing not to spend too much time on it, I could also just coast through it. At least in terms of research. But because you're in an 8-year program, for your PhD, you definitely must produce certain research results to graduate. Right. So what is the latest time I can get involved in this?
For me, it was the final year. In principle, you can wait until the final year to go full-time into research.
but from personal experience, you have to start considering it from the moment you choose your specialty.
Yes, I'd like to add a couple of words on this. Actually, the addition or the increasing richness of this research project is actually to make up for a disadvantage of the 8-year curriculum. Because one thing the 8-year program has always been criticized for is that the time is too short. And for the 8-year programs at different universities, their training plans actually have quite big differences. The 2 8-year programs in Beijing have actually always been said to have insufficient research capacity and insufficient research output, while the 8-year programs of some universities in the south and central regions are also criticized for having clinical learning. That is very shallow and not solid in terms of Peking University Health Science Center's teaching philosophy. They definitely won't let go of the clinical side. Yeah, but they also know that everyone indeed has very limited time and energy. So they can only say, I will provide these platforms for you. So if you have spare capacity in your studies, and you also hope to have some research training and research output earlier, we give you this opportunity so you can get in touch with it earlier, but it might be hard for them to force every student to put a lot of energy into research. Because after their current curriculum reform, indeed, as you just heard, their study pressure itself is already very high. And another point I want to say is probably the kind of feeling of being lost and helpless that Xiaoran just mentioned, which is very likely to run through your entire medical study. That is, at every stage you will have this kind of question. Like, why on earth am I doing what I do every day? I can't see any meaning in doing this. If you are a bit of an old hand, looking back, you will find it meaningful and useful. It indeed is useful. Hey, let me tell you, the preaching vibe of us medical students is very strong. But indeed, that is how it is. Like this one is that it indeed is like this. But secondly, their current emotion also needs this kind of complaining release or having this kind of doubt. We also complained back then. It is actually the same. Actually, I don't think you need to push yourself to this extent. Actually, there's some, right? I mean, some people are like that. But what you need to think about is you are at, like, the top institution and guided slowly through various exams, right? So most of you wouldn't allow yourselves to slack off. That is why many voices we hear are like, how can I study better? How can I do research like others? Or feelings like that. So I think the students we invited might also be a bit more competitive themselves. And their pressure is also a bit higher.
But your guests are definitely not fake guests.
We are just really afraid of spreading anxiety.
Actually, it is just a struggle of human nature. Your rationality tells you, I should push myself. But you said to me, I don't. I want to rest.
But I think it is actually not a matter of competition. It is actually a matter of your focus. Yes, for me, I am definitely the type to lie flat in research, but I don't think I would describe myself as someone who lies flat. Because I feel that when I study clinical practice, I am happy. Yeah, so I feel that I've put the focus of my college life on clinical practice.
In other words, if we make an analogy, like you, I just like clinical practice, then if I slack off on my research, can I graduate?
Actually, I just want to say now, I am a very typical clinical-oriented person. Research is just like this junior sister is from slacking off since starting school until now, which is also a bit preachy. So here is a piece of advice for junior sister. You can slack off on research, but first you need to decide which department you want to choose. Different departments actually have different focuses for doing research. My advisor is a clinical research person. He doesn't go into the lab. Yeah. So as a whole in our department, everyone doesn't do basic research. But everyone does some clinical trials. You can, based on the advisor you want and the situation of the hospital you want to go to, choose for yourself whether to get in touch with the lab during school.
After listening to that, I'll add a few more words. He just said, having chosen the department. Actually, before choosing the department, what do I think is the significance of doing research? Research is to let you, when encountering clinical problems in the future, have a way of thinking and methods to solve your clinical problems. It is actually helpful for a clinical practice because when you become a clinical doctor, you will find that many clinical problems are actually inconclusive. More often, there's no evidence supporting your current decisions. It is just an experience. So at this time, if you want to push your clinical practice forward, then you should have some methods to turn your ideas into data.
Yeah, and this is you doing research. I think, as a clinician, the significance of you doing research. So if we think from this direction, doing research is actually supporting your clinical practice. Then maybe it won't be that painful.
Did one point just said convince you that I don't reject research itself?
I am act, support his point of view. But actually, I feel that starting to do this research is very difficult. Yes, and when I don't understand, I also don't really know who to ask for help.
Hey, I think actually I can really understand Amy. Back then when I was in that Taiyang program, I also had the same feeling. I knew this thing was very valuable to me. Yes, I wanted to do it. But I didn't know who I should look for. I didn't know what I should do. Like, I went to the lab leaders, and the leaders would say, I welcome you. But going a step further, what exactly should I do? Who should I look for? This, I actually think, is related to personal character. Some people are very willing to pester the leader every day and ask this and that, but I would feel like I am bothering them. Yeah, right. So I just listen to the group meetings, and I do my best, under the condition of not bothering others, to learn some things as much as possible. But in this case, actually you don't get very good feedback yourself. And after a few times, you might not have much motivation left. Right.
I think there's one thing, when you are starting out, that mentor guiding you is very important. Like, I am very glad that my mentor is one who personally manages students. And back then, the senior student assigned to me, he would also let you watch twice first, and then start explaining its principles to you, and then gradually transition to you doing it yourself. Can you choose this guy yourself? But you don't know. It is still blind.
That is senior song. You guys just introduced, I recommend my teacher from back then to you. So is it optional to choose?
It is optional to choose, but you just trial and error many times.
I feel like I have gone through this stage of his, and now I have reached his stage. I used to only categorize scientific research as something meaningful to myself. I hope to do research well, and then publish some papers, because before choosing the department, well, maybe I would have a little leverage in hand. Well, but later, I tried and failed many times. So all the efforts had no results. And then you would have a very strong sense of frustration. Because since childhood, everyone probably told us, if you work hard, you will definitely get results. And we happen to be the ones who work hard and get results. Yes, this value system was shattered. And then you would be very lost. Well, maybe there are also such problems in many studies.
So what about now? Done well. Doesn't that slap your sister's face even harder?
No, so I feel this is still a process of self-redemption.
So you could say your redemption now. Result is that you did this thing well. Or that you reconciled with yourself.
I think the two of them are just don't know if it is fate or metaphysics. A mysterious relationship. Just after you reconciled with yourself, you will find that probably most things will go a bit smoother.
It went from being very obsessed to, I'll just do my best. And then things actually went smoother.
You just think of it as life being an experience. I'll just go and experience it.
Yes. So both of your current states are actually pretty good.
Well, my current state is extremely good.
Then what about the confusion or some expectations for the upcoming academic year?
I am still looking forward to going into clinical practice in my senior year, because I also like clinical practice very much. But there will be a bit of worry, because maybe my previous exam grades were okay, but I don't think these exam grades can prove that I can handle patients very well clinically.
I don't need to worry, because you will definitely have this problem. Which is definitely that you won't know how to handle it. That is the theoretical things in your books, and the actual clinical things are completely different. You know that maybe for this patient I should use, for example, I should use PPI. I should use theta. But which specific one to use? How to adjust the strength? And when to use it until you still don't know. These things can only be accumulated during your work process.
Is there any internal medicine teacher present?
Oh, actually, maybe that person also took leave. Yes, he got sick. I forgot to mention. And then we were supposed to record the video at 10:30. At 9:50, he got a high fever. I temporarily brought him over. No, then that is fine.
You can ask, and we will tell you what we know.
Just because we have been learning during this recent period, it is about diagnosing blood-related. They would have us do consultations and write medical records, these kinds of things during consultations. My writing couldn't keep up with my questioning speed, so I felt quite frantic, but I think this is actually a matter of experience.
Like, having just started or having too little practice.
Well, you guys also like this, right?